Second. And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to the Business Emergency Room. I am incredibly excited. I'm always incredibly excited. It's the Business Emergency Room. But to have our guest right now, Ari Katz, a longtime friend of mine, entrepreneur extraordinaire, and has an incredible journey to discuss pre-COVID, post-COVID, everything that's going on with him. I'm going to do a little bit of a background of him. It will not do him justice. I will guarantee it won't do him justice. So then I'm going to have to ask you to give a little bit more. Ari started his career in technology sales, was one of ground floor startup extraordinaire employees to help take a company straight all the way through a significant exit. Afterwards, tried his hand at a few others and then put his hand to more family entrepreneurship, joined forces with his wife, an incredible dermatologist. I should know she's in the local area, very well respected. And they then had explosive and massive growth, which then kind of hit a curb stop with COVID. And from there, Ari working with his wife, did a couple of pivots, has some fascinating stories. So you know all about the business emergency room. We love getting stories from entrepreneurs about what they're doing in the COVID and pandemic, how they are pivoting. Ari's got fascinating stories. So Ari, you want to give a little bit more background and kind of talk a little bit about what you've been up to?
Sure, absolutely, Aaron. Well, thank you for those kind words and that very generous introduction. Yeah, look, you kind of summed it up, right? We're in a very fascinating place right now for all of us, but, just to give you a little bit of my background so you kind of see where, everyone's got their own perspectives on stuff. For me, spent the better part of north of a decade actually in the digital marketing space, particularly selling within the digital marketing space. So really got very comfortable with the internet, with digital marketing, with Google, Facebook, Instagram, all the type of advertising you can do right now online. Really learned it from the ground up. I worked for a company called Yodel, which was, kind of started out of nowhere. I was one of the first 50 employees of the company and, really helped grow that company to north of 1,000 employees. We became the largest local online advertising company in the country with over 20,000 customers. And local online advertising, just for those who don't know, it's very different than national advertising. Local means you're trying to help small businesses, local businesses attract local customers in their market, whether it's a garage door repairman, whether it's a plumber, whether it's a lawyer or a doctor. There's a very unique approach to that, very different than, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, or really any of those large brands we all know. They market to a national audience. I really, learned how to market to a local audience on the internet. And so fast forward, started at that company around 2003. Fast forward, like Aaron mentioned, had a very nice exit there. Couple other companies, couple nice exits also in the digital space. One was in social media, so really learned the Facebook and Instagram world. And one was in, I guess technically grocery loyalty, but the idea there was really customer data, learning what people bought, how you can market to them based on their past behavior. So when you put that all together, I really got a very significant perspective into consumer behavior on the internet, most specifically local consumer behavior, and how you can nurture someone on their journey from learning about something to ultimately making a buying decision. And so at the same time that I was doing all that, my wife was finishing medical school, finishing her residency as a dermatologist, worked for several years at other dermatology practices until late in the summer of 2016, decided to open her own dermatology practice here in New Jersey. And really from the outside of that business, we weren't really sure what would happen with it. But, to our delight, it just started to take off. And what I learned very quickly, Aaron, was that as a dermatology practice, you didn't really need advertising. As soon as we got listed with the insurance providers, the phone started ringing. It was pretty incredible. That was great for the medical side of the business, but we quickly learned that for the cosmetic side of the business, like all of your cosmetic treatments that you go see a dermatologist for, whether it's Botox or filler or any body sculpting treatments, you really needed to advertise. And so very, slowly but surely, I started to explore what I could, what value I could add to her business in the form of digital advertising. And so started to put us on Google a little bit, run some Facebook ads, create a following online. And it took off, honestly. And we realized very quickly, as most of us, especially those in Jersey, know, like Jersey women, they want their treatments. They want their bodies right. They want their face right. And we were the providers that was going to be there when they were looking for us. So we just leveraged the internet. We leveraged salesmanship, great marketing. And we've built now a really, really what I think is a phenomenal business that's now 3 locations in New Jersey. We started offering mobile service during COVID. So basically New Jersey's first mobile spa. We're the highest rated dermatologists on all of Health Grades and Vitals with over 1,000 5-star reviews. And our signature product offering is a product called Cool Sculpting, which is the #1 non-invasive fat reduction treatment on the planet. And we were actually recognized last year as the #1 Cool Sculpting provider in the country of over 3,000 providers. And honestly, it's a tribute to the amazing staff we have in our locations, but it's also it's rooted in digital marketing and sales, and again, nurturing that customer along that journey. So that's a long-winded answer to kind of my background and how we got to where I am. If you asked me 10 years ago, would I be running, one of the fastest growing dermatology practices / spas in the country, I'd say, are you nuts? But crazier things have happened.
I would have said yes if I would have picked. So awesome background, Ari. Thank you again for coming. So let's dive into, you were about to open location 3 and everything starts to hit. So if you want to walk us through that journey of having to, because now you're dealing with physical real estate space, you're dealing with everyone I'm talking to for other business sites trying to leave their locations and stay virtual. Obviously you have to be, on-prem. So what was that journey like? What was the thought process and how'd you go through it?
Sure. So you're taking me back to a pretty dark time, Aaron. I mean, look, so just to kind of set the framework for what we were dealing with, it was let's actually take a step back before that. So we had these 2 very solid locations. We had Florham Park, where my wife practices, which is really more medical than anything else. And that's really where you have the volume of patients like a normal doctor's office, a lot of people in the waiting room. We opened Montclair in July of 18, and that was really a standalone location, but it was more of a boutique, like, almost like a studio location where we had a couple of treatments, no doctor, but a lot of body sculpting treatments. And then we made the decision to open Red Bank. And for anyone who knows New Jersey, Red Bank's a really high-end area. It's probably the closest you're going to get in all of New Jersey to like a real city vibe. Ritzy, lots of money, great clientele, great location by the beach, beautiful street. I mean, Tiffany's across the street, Starbucks on the corner, really just a high-end location. We made the decision to go there actually after opening originally in a place called Neptune, New Jersey, which, again, not knowing the shore so well myself, we found a great location in Neptune. We opened it and we realized very quickly it wasn't the right location for a number of reasons. So we were now deciding to move to Red Bank. This was actually last summer. My wife and I were having a drink on Broad Street in Red Bank, which is just the hottest area. And, I guess I was a few drinks in and I was like, hey, maybe call me crazy, but like this would be a great place to open a location. And so we found a spot we liked around October time, signed a lease. The lease had 2 months of forbearance on the term. So we basically had 2 months to build it out. And we were expecting to open early to late December, kind of before the end of the year. That all went out the window fast. Anyone who's done commercial construction, especially in Red Bank, where the permits and the zoning and that whole situation just was a whole job in itself to manage that process. Our permits, zoning, certificate of occupancy took months and months to acquire. Ironically, and in a lot of ways it was a good thing, although it was frustrating at the time, we actually got it, I think it was March 9th. So after months and months and months, we were paying rent, we had built the place out, we had put a ton of money into construction, we had bought machines, we had hired staff, and we were just waiting to be able to open. And then on March 9th, we finally had our final walkthrough. We got the green light. And that, if you guys can remember, was really at the time when all of this was starting to build. The coronavirus, the COVID, the whole pandemic was starting to really get scary. And so I remember it was a Friday, and I believe it was about March 15th, if I'm not mistaken. We had a couple of our celebrity clientele in there. They were like the first people we were treating in Red Bank. My wife and I went in. We had the staff in. We did a whole treatment live on Instagram. It was awesome. And I remember kind of, first of all, being so excited that we were finally open and just could not be more excited about what I thought we could do there. And I remember calling my director of marketing after the day and being like, because at that point we knew that we were going to have to shut down. It was like the word was out, they're going to start shutting businesses down. So I remember calling my director of marketing and being like, man, we are like, as they say, all revved up with no place to go right now. We are so primed in this location to explode, but we, this is just such a shame, and hopefully we'll deal with what we got to deal with and we'll come back better than ever. And so we did kind of get that call from Governor Murphy, as all the businesses did, starting that Monday, it was just, illegal to remain open unless you were really an essential business. And even though we're a dermatology practice that can operate under that medical umbrella, and we probably could have made a case to stay open with that, we didn't feel that it was the right thing to do. We didn't feel comfortable being there. We also knew that, we needed to prioritize businesses that were truly, truly essential. And as much as I think kind of sculpting your body and getting your Botox, is essential for some people, not enough to stay open during that period. So, it was a really, really kind of, I would say early on, it was more frustrating than anything. And as we went, I think like most people, there was like that, that arc where you kind of went up in fear, and up here, it was really bad. It was pretty scary on a personal level, certainly on a business level, all of the, commitments we have a lot of lenders, we have a lot of overhead, we have a lot of expenses, we have a lot of debt, so just kind of managing through that process, having to call every single lender and try and work out relief was certainly a challenge. And it was a time I'll never forget. I'll tell you that much.
Well, look, it's a story that a lot of folks have gone through. Thank you for sharing. I'll pry a little bit more because that's just what I do. You tell me if I'm prying too much, and definitely stop. It's one of the good news is you're on the other side. Now, granted, we all know that nothing is stopping anytime soon, but we are seeing it. But you've evolved. You've gotten through, and it says kudos to you. I think it's a testament to you and your wife. I want to ask a little bit more into the process, and we're going to go a little bit through this journey together. How receptive were your lenders? Because I'm assuming that some of your equipment is leased. I'm assuming that obviously you've got rent. How receptive were they to your situation of asking for, if not a discount, a delay or curtailment, or whatever words you want to use?
Sure. So it's a good question. I mean, we have, the way it works in our business is we basically buy these medical devices, these machines, and in very rare instances, you're laying out cash for them or buying them up front. Most instances, you're financing them. So we have about 10 cool sculpting machines. We have several lasers. We have several muscle toning machines. We have probably about 15 machines in general. And these things can run about $100,000 each, if not more. And so, they add up, and that means we're dealing with probably about 7 to 10 lenders. I think with one lender, we have probably 6 machines under one lender, and then a few machines, under different various lenders, but about six or seven lenders in total. And I had to call every single one. And the truth is that they were all kind of expecting the call. Yeah. These guys have hundreds, if not thousands of customers. So it's not like they know me on a first name basis. Oh, hey, Ari, we were expecting your call, but everyone's calling them saying, hey, COVID shut my business down. COVID's disrupting my business, and we need to talk. So they were very, I would say, honestly, I think I have 7 or 8 lenders. I don't remember the exact number. Every single one except one was very receptive and was right off the bat like, yeah, we're expecting, we're getting a lot of calls like this, and pretty much had to fill out a few, some paperwork agreeing to take the 3-month deferral they gave us and move it to the end of the term. A lot of these were 5-year terms, so it just means now they're 5 years and 3 months. Wasn't a big deal. They didn't charge any penalties. Every one of them was receptive and frankly, I thought very kind. One in particular basically said flat out no, and it was even hard to get them on the phone. And I almost was thinking in my head, like, man, as a large provider in this space, we get calls all the time for referrals. And I'm like, man, these guys I'm never going to utter a good word about these guys again, because who's not giving financial relief when your whole business is shut down? So I almost wanted to call them up and be like, all right, where do you want me to drop off the machine? But no, for the most part, everyone was good. And it took a huge monthly nut and allowed us to push it off until we were able to reopen this month. So it was thank God we were able to execute on that. That was priority number one. That and the credit card debt. We also had to work out a deal with Amex and Chase to push off that debt. So it was, I remember the day that we had to furlough 30 employees, B, speak to all of our lenders, C, speak to the credit card companies. I was in my house the whole day. I looked down at my Apple Watch after the day, and I think it was something like 15 miles in one day. That's me pacing back and forth in my office.
My God.
15 miles. So that was a day. Yeah.
Wow. And just for our audience here, Ari by far is the most upbeat guy I know. So for him to say that anything could face him at all, it's a thing and a half. So so the next question is you just mentioned the furlough of employees. How did you message that? And then what are you messaging to them now?
Sure. So, I mean, what made it easier was that, again, I've never been in a position to furlough anyone or lay anyone off. I've never been in that position. And I know you have some experience with that, Aaron, in various roles. But I was going to say, what made it easier was that they all knew it wasn't a Ari issue. It wasn't a Sperling dermatology issue. It wasn't a New Jersey issue. It wasn't a United States issue. It was global. The entire world was laying people off. I mean, you open any paper in any part of the world, Black Monday, whatever that was, the 18th or whatever, and it was like layoffs at Marriott, layoffs at, just about every business on the planet was laying people off. And so that made it a lot easier because they expected it. Being able to say to them that I'm essentially laying myself off. I'm essentially putting myself and my wife on unemployment. I mean, we're doing the same thing to us that we're doing to you. It's like we're all in this together. So honestly, the conversations were not as difficult as you might have thought. They were all very receptive. But it also starts with these guys have worked with me for years in some cases. And so there was a built-in loyalty and a built-in respect and a built-in understanding that I've always treated them fairly. And that goes a long way. If we had a rocky relationship, I'm sure those conversations would have been a lot more difficult. But we have a built-in relationship that spans several years in some cases. And, they understood what was going on. They understood that this was a necessary step. And the way I positioned it to them, which I was very kind of serious about this positioning, was, guys, every decision I'm making today, and this was back in early March, every decision we're making today, although they might be difficult to hear and uncomfortable and they're not great, they're not good news, but every decision we're making is to ensure we have a company to come back to tomorrow, and not just any company, but a healthy company. And so, pushing off the debt, furloughing employees, freezing, credit cards, freezing every type of layout of expense. All of that was with one intention, and that was making sure we can come back healthy when we're able to come back. So, they took it pretty well. And again, it was like a crazy, crazy time, but to their credit, they understood it was necessary, and we were all in it together, as we still are.
Tremendous. Before we so I'm going to talk about coming back. So I've got two questions before we go into really your journey coming back. I'm going to give you a softball one now because we're a little mid-interview. And this could either be a super softball one or the hardest ball question of all time. So I'm going to ask this because it's a personal question. I deal with the same thing. What is it like working in a small business with your wife?
That's a great question. It's a good question. We have a unique situation because there really is a separation of church and state with us. Not only in the sense of from our personal marriage to our business, but even within our business, she really operates on the medical side and, fully, makes all the decisions regarding patient care, clinical, scientific, medicine, anything that would fall under, the general oversight of a doctor is, I don't mess with her. I don't go in the room and say, hey, you're calling that XYZ. I think it's ABC. I joke with her sometimes about that, but whereas I stay in my lane on the marketing and the sales and really the business development. And so we're very lucky in that sense that we both bring totally different values to the table. It's not like we're both doctors, although many people call me Dr. Katz, which sometimes I don't correct him, which is pretty funny. We're very unique in kind of where we focus, and so that's made it easier. The other thing that's made it easier is physical separation. So she's in the office every day in Florham Park. I'm working from my home. Given that we now have multiple locations, if I am in the office, it's rarely in her office. So while we technically work together, physically, we're not together that much more than any other married couple where one's leaving the house every day. Also, there are times where, either, again, talking late at night or in front of the TV, you start talking business, you can't help it.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect of it where you don't want your whole life to be business. So you have to kind of bite your tongue sometimes. And the last thing I'll say is, look, like any married couple, right? There's always times where we kind of have arguments or disagreements over how we're going to proceed forward in one instance or another. And generally I fall back on, if it's medical related, I defer to you. And if it's kind of business, sales, marketing related, you defer to me. And, most things can kind of fall into one of those two. And that's kind of how we've delegated those decisions.
Very cool. I asked one because it's I think it's a key part of especially your business too. It's I work with my wife as well. So I always try to find other entrepreneurs saying, so how do you deal with it? Right? We're still strong. It's been a number of years, but yeah, I find it is sometimes difficult to escape. Not that I ever want to escape my wife, but the business just seems to, it's your business, it's your life.
That's exactly right. And it's just, even yesterday, for example, I had like just such an enormously busy day yesterday. And it came a point in the evening where I took my Apple Watch off because it's been buzzing all day with this and that. I took my phone, I just put it all down. I left it upstairs and I said, I need a few hours away from business. And so you need that sometimes, especially as a small business owner.
I am right there with you. Question, as we're starting to talk about you getting, coming back, and I want to hear all about the journey, definitely hear about your mobile office. But before that, one thing that I've got a sentiment from a lot of the other business folk that I talk to, and I think it's very key for your business. Just because the governor says you can come back, doesn't mean people want to come back. And especially something as high touch and physical as your type of business. How do you get people comfortable? Because there's a difference between the scientific side of getting people comfortable and just various different small things you can do to make people comfortable. So what are you doing on that part?
Sure. It's a good question. I mean, look, just because exactly what you said, just because the governor says it's okay to open, it's not like, okay, back to normal, right? Look, the good news about having the downtime, if you can look at it this way, is that you had a lot of time to think about this stuff and prepare. And so how are you going to disinfect between patients? How are you going to protect your staff? How are you going to protect your patients? How are you going to make people comfortable coming in? We're taking all the same measures as every other office, whether it's cleaning down the equipment and the chairs and temperature checks and, screenings and questions before we, confirm appointments, limiting the people within the office, people wait in their car before we call them and tell them it's their time for their appointment and then they can come in. So we're taking all of those things. We've invested a lot, obviously, in PPE. So, not unlike just about every business, every responsible business right now is doing that. For us, the biggest decision we made as it relates to kind of the new normal was deciding to, go and introduce this mobile spa concept. That was really, for us, the biggest leap of faith, the biggest risk. And frankly, the thing, if you ask me right now what I'm most proud of, certainly in the near term, or near past, that would be it. Just taking a risk during a very uncertain time. So far, so good with it. So, it's doing the best you can to make people comfortable. But then when you add the aspect of the mobile spa, you almost take all of that off the table and say, hey, we can actually bring our treatments to you. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to leave you go as far as your driveway and you could have all of our 5-star treatments from the comfort of your driveway. And so there was definitely that aspect of, okay, we can do what we can in the stores and the people who will come, but those who are still not comfortable, now we have a solution for them. And then people who are not comfortable in their own driveways, I don't think they're ever going to be comfortable. So
fair enough. So on the mobile spa, I've seen the write-ups. I'm super excited. I think it does kind of a couple of things in my mind. It brings modernity. I think I said that right. Modernization is probably, I can say that instead of modernity, to a particular medical practice. Also, it harkens back to the concept of house calls.
Yep.
So, which is this, so let's talk, so let's explain just for the audience here, let's talk about what it actually is. And then I want to really get into the formation of the idea. And then we'll talk about, so we're going to talk about current, we'll go up the past, and then we're going to talk future. So
Sounds
current.
great.
So yeah. So tell everybody, what is this killer mobile spa?
Sure. So the mobile spa, it's basically, if you guys, I had never heard of this, but it's a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. So the best way to describe it, because I've never heard of a Sprinter before this, is like a party bus. So most people have been on a party bus. There's no stripper pole on this party bus. But you're talking 6.5-foot ceilings. You're talking, in our case, Maybach leather, fully reclining chairs. This is a 25-foot long vehicle. So it's very, very comfortable and spacious. And it's not a commercial vehicle. So it's got 4 wheels and can be driven by anyone with a driver's license. We put a generator on the back so we could power it. It's got outlets and all that. You know, the best way to describe it is honestly, it's like a private jet on wheels. From the moment you step onto this thing, you're transported into this totally surreal experience of like, what just happened? Just this morning, we went to a photo shoot that one of our clients was doing. She was getting all pampered up before her shoot. She wanted us to bring our muscle toning treatment so it could kind of tighten up her abs. She was doing a bathing suit shoot. And so she wanted her abs to look a little bit more sculpted. We pull up in front of this mansion in Saddle River, and it's a little bit rainy outside. And we had the lights going, we had the music going, and she stepped into this thing and was like, oh my God, like, where did this come from? Like, this is the best kept secret in all of New Jersey. So, you know, it really lends itself very nicely to being able to offer these services without any compromise. From the music, it's got 2 50-inch TVs, you could watch Netflix. The lights dim, it's got curtains on the windows. I mean, the whole thing is 5-star from end to end. And it also, of course, solves for the current climate of social distancing and, you know, basically people wanting treatments, but not necessarily wanting to go into the store for those treatments. And so it really, it's a very kind of exciting project to be working on. And if the, you know, level of enthusiasm we've had so far for it is any indication, I think it's going to be very, very successful for us.
That's awesome. That's tremendous. So I'm still blown away by it. I'm always like, I should say I'm never surprised, but I'm always surprised by your inventiveness. So let's talk. So I want to get into 2 things. I want to talk brainchild, like how it came to be. And then I want to talk like deep business, because you're talking about fit out. You're talking about how did you find this thing, build this thing, finance this thing, staff it. So let's go. So let's talk idea initiation first. So how did this come to pass from an idea perspective?
So it's funny, you know, talking about the husband-wife combo, we were, you know, it was basically probably back in, I believe it was mid-April, sitting with my wife on a Friday night, you know, after dinner, kids were in bed. And, you know, at that point, you know, mid-April, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of like, is this a zombie apocalypse? Like, what is going on right now? But knowing that we needed to think outside the box, right? And not be too scared to make a big move. And honestly, I remember it very vividly. I mean, it started with this idea, which was, I'll tell you the real story, which I haven't shared with that many people, but the real story is that during the lockdown, we actually went to the spa. We took a couple of our machines home. We said, heck, if these machines are sitting collecting dust, why not treat ourselves? Not patients, not anyone paying, but literally my wife, myself saying, hey, we own these machines, we should use them. We never get a chance to get our own treatments. So we went to the spa one day in April. We loaded a few of the machines into a truck. We brought them to my house. And my wife said, hey, if I'm sitting here during COVID, let me get my abs done, right? If I'm watching Netflix with you, let's get a treatment. These are very low touch, you know, put them on, sit back, watch TV. We call it Netflix and chilling, you know, in the medical aesthetic sense. Yeah. So we had a couple of these machines in the house at that time. And, you know, we said, wouldn't it be cool? Like, it was starting to get warmer out. We said, wouldn't it be cool if you could offer treatments in the backyard? We have a nice backyard here with a patio. I said, you know, for some of our VIP clients, could we not just invite them to our backyard? You know, they might not want to come in the house, but maybe you could actually, you know, bring them to the backyard and treat them there. And we're like, well, maybe we could do Botox in the backyard, or maybe we could do it, you know, from a parking lot, or like kind of just thinking outside the box. It just started to roll a little. And I remember I stepped away for a few minutes and I was, you know, in the room and my head was still going with it. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, I have a friend who's a dentist who used to tell me about bringing dentists, you know, in kind of a mobile dentistry. could that work for this business? And I walked back into the room to my wife and I just said, what about a mobile spa? She was like, damn, that's a good idea. Like that could work. And honestly, we had this epiphany that like, this could be really, really interesting. But at that point, it was like, we've had 100 of those epiphanies and we don't act on them. What really was the inflection point was that Sunday. So this was Friday night. Sunday morning, I remember sitting outside, I flip on my iPad and I type in on Google something like, what did I type in? Party bus for sale, limousine for sale. I didn't know what a Sprinter was. So I typed in something like that. And I found this limousine network, used limousines. And I started searching and immediately I like see these outfitted Sprinters that were like, looked like you were looking at $1 million private jet. And they were beautiful, white leather and TVs and coffee machines. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I just started digging into it and I was blown away. And I was like, I showed it. I was like, we could do this. This could work. And mind you, at this point we had spent, the better part of 6 months trying to get Red Bank open. And here I'm like, we could buy this, we could have it tomorrow and it's up and running. And by the way, you can finance it like a car over 5 years and pay a monthly. It's like, this is amazing. And so from there, it just caught fire. I got on the phone with the owner of the limousine network company, like that day, I think, told him what I was looking for. He put me in touch with a few sellers. I found the right vehicle and I got very lucky that I found one that for the most part was like tailor-made for what we needed. What we actually had to do was we had to take a couple of chairs out to make room for the machines to be able to roll around and for the treatments to be able to be done in a kind of effective, efficient manner. But we didn't need any major retrofit. The TVs were there. It was what he called it was a 9 on the, it was used, right? So it wasn't brand new, but it was a 9 on the inside and 8 on the outside. And anyone who wants to get a look at it, just go to our Instagram, Sperling Dermatology, check it out. I mean, it's beautiful. This thing just was so good looking and so on brand and it, there was no compromise. That was the biggest thing. I didn't want to bring people into something that felt like a school bus. I wanted to maintain that level of luxury. These people are spending thousands of dollars of treatment. I want them to feel like, that was worth it and not that it was, what just happened. So honestly, seeing what was available, learning about what a Sprinter is, doing some homework, I couldn't get it out of my mind. And so I plowed forward and we got a phenomenal deal. And that was probably one of the benefits of doing this during COVID was there weren't a lot of buyers out there. These guys were getting desperate. As you can imagine, the party bus industry is not exactly in a bull position right now. So, we got a phenomenal deal on it. I mean, I paid more, put it this way, I paid more for my personal car than I did for this. And this thing was worth probably more than 3 or 4 times what I paid for it. I just got a phenomenal deal and it was too good to pass up.
That's awesome. That is tremendous. So just so people can understand from a dermatology treatment, like I always think, acne, and then you mentioned like Botox and now with cold sculpting, but I had no idea that, professionals out there, probably, anyone out there can like, I want to look a bit better. I want to do something. So, and what's fascinating is just, you mentioned non-surgical. So I have always associated this, and maybe this is just through, movie shows like Nip and Tuck and things like that, of just all the stuff involves a knife. And how is this? So this has got to be a fascinating piece of medicine in which it's non-invasive and can be done by, and I have no idea if this is true, it can be done by like non-full MDs or DOs. So that is, which lends itself, especially as you say, to the advertising world. So so just run through a couple of these things just so people can know, because I'm still learning. So what are the couple of things that are out there? And by the way, just the audience, this is not a commercial whatsoever. I am just purely really fascinated by this. So this is me just pumping Ari for questions.
So yeah, it's a great question. So the reality is that what made our business able to do what we do is the fact that these treatments, and you nailed it, can be performed by a non-physician, by a non, PA or doctor, MD, DO, whatever you want. Without that, right, you can't scale it. You need to hire doctors, right? And my wife can only be in one place at once. The fact that we were able to hire trained and certified technicians made the business able to produce what it can produce. And so all of the treatments that are kind of our bread and butters are, non-invasive, no needles. They say no needles, no surgery, no downtime, no blood. I mean, literally, they're medical grade devices that are actually approved to be done from a Sprinter, right? But beyond that, I could do them in my garage. If you walked into my garage, Aaron, and I was doing like open heart surgery, I'd be thrown in jail. You can't do that in a garage. You need to do it in a hospital, medical grade environment. These treatments are so non-invasive that I could do them in my garage. The FDA could show up and be like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Like they're literally, it's like you might as well be given a haircut in your garage. Because there's no invasiveness to it, there's no blood, there's no knives, there's no needles, there's no downtime. It's something you could train someone very quickly on how to do. And that's not to say that all practices, providers, technicians are created equal. Our technicians are certified to the highest level through all of the accreditations, the universities that they have to go to get, that accreditation. But at the end of the day, they don't need a medical license. And so that really made it that much more appealing when you think about scaling it, when you think about the Sprinter. I don't want to send a doctor out on a Sprinter all day because on a Sprinter, you are kind of constricted by how many people you can see. You got to drive to each appointment. So it takes time. But if you can send a technician, now it becomes a little bit more worthwhile.
That's tremendous. So let's talk future. So I'm going to take up as much time as you're willing to give. So let's talk future. Let's talk future of your dermatology practice. Let's talk about maybe you get a fleet. I have no idea. I think this is awesome. What do you think the future is for your practice this next, let's call it pre-vaccine? Because because I figure, and what I mean by pre-vaccine is the psychological turning point in which people are comfortable that COVID will no longer affect them in a contagion way. So sure. pre that moment, we could call it a vaccine. It could be anything. It could be way pre-vaccine. So, but that concept. So before people feel that COVID has passed, what is your future? Like, what are you thinking?
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but look, I mean, we reopened June 1st of this, obviously this month. This is the end of the first full month we've been back. And honestly, it was really a phased reopening and we're still phasing it. But it's been a very good month, thank God. And so if that's any indication, it's great. We knew there was pent up demand for our services. Like I joked earlier, you don't want to stand between a woman and her Botox and her lips and her body and all that. So that was, there was definitely that pent up demand that was real, and we anticipated it, and it was real. And we've had a tremendous month, one of the best months we've ever had. And given that A, we're coming out of COVID, B, we've only brought back about, at this point, in a full-time capacity, maybe a quarter of our staff. We've got the whole staff here and there, but no one's working the same hours they were before. But we're like a lean, mean machine right now, Aaron. It's the leanest we've ever been, and it feels so good. We've had a great month. I do believe that there's more demand out there for our services. Naturally, there's a seasonality to our business, especially when you talk about the body sculpting, which is our real core offering. A lot of people don't necessarily want that done in the summer. It's a little ironic, but they want it done in May and June so that they look good in the summer. It takes a month or two. And if you have it in July or August, there could be, not complications, but, it could leave bruising. And if you're going to be in a bathing suit all summer, do you really want to do it? Filler could, there's different things where in July and August is not necessarily the busiest season, but this July and August will be different because of the fact that they couldn't get it done in, April, May, and really in June. So I'm very bullish on our business. What will happen with a, resurgence or whether that plays out, I guess anyone can, give their opinion on. I have no idea, right? We've seen what's happened in other states, and I don't know what that's going to mean for New Jersey. So I think that obviously will impact our ability to bounce back and how quickly, if God forbid, it was a resurgence here in New Jersey, it would make bouncing back at that high velocity more complicated and difficult. But I think in general, I feel very bullish on what we're able, to look forward to. Sherry's business on the medical side is, I think, very recession proof. It's a doctor's office, kind of like a dentist. I mean, you're going, right? If you have a skin problem, you want to go get it checked out. So her business, I'm not worried about. My business is certainly more, dependent around a little bit more disposable income, a little bit more of discretionary spending and luxury purchases. But again, we're in the right market for it, and we've had a great June. So I believe that people are ready to, spend those stimulus checks, I guess. But in all honesty, TBD, really. TBD on a lot. I look at the summer, I look at it in a few different windows. I think the summer is one window. So June, July, August, I think will be very strong because people are going to be the most relaxed with social distancing, I think, for the next few months while it's warm out. People are in good moods. God willing, there's not a big resurgence. Come September, October, I do anticipate, unfortunately, I think it's going to get tight again. I hope they don't shut us down again. That would be a disaster, but maybe it tightens up a little September, October. The good thing about November, December is while it may be not the best time virus-wise, we did the last couple of years of tremendous Black Friday promotion where we did some e-commerce, and that basically propelled us for those 2 months, which are, if you take e-commerce out of the equation, November, December is the worst months in our industry because people would rather spend their money on Christmas gifts under the tree than they would on, our treatments, especially when people are putting on big sweaters anyway. Who cares if they got that extra 15 pounds down there? But November, December is notoriously slow. We've been able to offset that with e-commerce around Black Friday. And so I think that this year, even more so with the treatments we have and the offerings and the pricing and the promotions we're working on, I think that November, December will be salvaged by a great Black Friday, a great end of year sale. So September, October to me are the iffiest ones. But, overall, I'm pretty bullish and I'm pretty, optimistic. And then the last thing is the Sprinter. People say, oh, is the Sprinter good post-COVID? My answer is it's 10 times as good post-COVID. Why? What happens post-COVID? Street fairs, beach, Botox parties, all the stuff that we used to be able to do together, we can then do again. We can bring the Sprinter. Imagine this thing sitting out in Long Branch by the boardwalk, or, bringing it to someone's house to do a Botox party, or bringing it to a street fair or farmer's market. So to me, all of the offerings get stronger post-COVID, and the Sprinter's no exception.
What would be the decision criteria to get more than one Sprinter?
Good question. And to be honest with you, it's already in my head because in the first week we had over 100 people request appointments on the Sprinter. What would be the impetus? Honestly, just supply, right? If we didn't have enough supply to meet the demand, I'd say it's time. We've referred to this Sprinter internally as phase one, meaning we weren't going to go custom fit it. We weren't going to go do some of the stuff that maybe in a phase two Sprinter you do. I'll give you an example. There are Sprinters out there that actually you can put a bathroom on. That was one of the biggest concerns for my team was, hey, what happens if we're out on a 6-hour Sprinter? Someone needs to use the bathroom, right? So the person whose house you're at can go into their home, but they're not going to invite you in. So that's just a silly example, but maybe on phase two Sprinter, if we're actually going to go spend a little bit more money, you get one with a bathroom on it. Or you get one that has your logo stitched into the chairs. I don't know, but definitely the idea of a second Sprinter is something that is already kind of been planted, but we're not there yet. We are definitely still very much in the baby step process now of marketing this thing and getting it out there. We've almost been biting our tongue on it because of the fact we don't want to overwhelm our staff with the amount of demand we believe we can generate. So check back with me maybe 3 to 6 months, and I'll be able to tell you kind of, are we on that track towards another Sprinter or not? And if we're not, it's not a bad thing. But it's just going to depend on what's the real demand for it, and can we kind of validate that?
So the takeaway I got was that I've got a guess now for 3 to 6 months from now. So.
Yeah, sure. Pencil it in.
Done. I'm going to now totally, unless you've got anything else to say, you've killed this. It is utterly inspiring. I got to tell you,
thank you.
I love interviewing other entrepreneurs. I love seeing what they're doing. It's jazzed me up for the rest of the day. I'm going to be watching this over. It's from facing some serious dark times to bouncing back, finding unique ways. This is the interview for the ages. So sorry, every folks who was reading this, like, hey, how come Aaron's never said that about us? Well, have a story like Ari's. But I want to switch this a bit, and this is only because, so we've got a little bit of time left. You tell me when you got to hop. Yeah, if anyone else has popped in questions, I haven't gotten any, probably because honestly, Ari, you've been so captivating. So take it as a compliment. Either I'm going to get some text of questions, but I'm going to switch this topic just a little bit based off your experience, local marketing. So we're going to switch this a little bit to a little bit of the Ari University right now. So what tips do you give to folks? You have an incredible career in this, and you've proven it out after running, you have this practice now. What are some good local marketing tips that people just aren't aware of?
Good question. I mean, it really depends on the specific business you're trying to market, right? You're going to market a law firm online differently than a derm practice, differently than a, plumber or a, I don't know, a gym. But one thing I actually do I participate with what's called Cool Sculpting University, which is a university in Reston, Virginia, where they bring people like myself in and we help train future cool sculpting providers on stuff just like this. And one of the things I always come back to is, the internet's a scary place, especially if you don't know what you're doing. I used to say in my old job, like, you can spend a lot of money on the internet and get nothing for it and really lose a lot of money on the internet very quickly, kind of like going into any casino, right? You can lose money faster in a casino than pretty much anywhere else. But on the internet, it's about finding someone who knows what they're doing. And that's easier said than done. I know that, but trying to learn it for yourself as a business owner. If you are a great, I don't know, handyman or a great lawyer or a great doctor, right? If my wife, I'll say, and she'd agree, if she tried to learn to do her own Google marketing, internet advertising, like, she'd probably be terrible at it, right? She'd get gobbled up and she'd waste a lot of time and money. So it's not that everyone should go learn to be an expert themselves. Unless you work at a digital marketing company or have real experience or understand technology really well, I wouldn't recommend that. Find someone who does. My wife, the reason why we work so well together is because I have that background and I was able to apply it specifically to her business, which is very unique. It's a true differentiator. For those people out there who are struggling with local online advertising or internet marketing in general, my solution is not read a lot of books and learn it. My solution is find a company that's done it in your space. Look at some of your competitors. Look at who they're using. Do you have a company in your space who's killing it online, who you could say, man, I wish we had what they have? Guess what? They'll probably have a provider doing it for them. If you go to a competitor's website, it probably says in the bottom corner, this website was developed by XYZ company. Click on that. See who that takes you to. That's probably a website development company. You could say, hey, I really like their website. Can you build me one like that? I saw you do so-and-so's website. Do you do their advertising? Searching. If you are just a local SMB example, if you're a lawyer or a plumber, like, type online, online marketing for plumbers, online marketing for lawyers, online marketing for whatever you are, and find people who specialize in that. And then don't take their word for it. Ask for referrals, recommendations, case studies. Really make sure you find a partner. But to me, Aaron, there's not a silver bullet to internet. It's not like, oh, do this, this, and this, and you'll be good. There's so much to it. You need a partner. And again, every business is unique in what they need. A local provider, it needs the map listings, for example, on Google, a lot more than a national provider. So depending on who you are and the type of business you are, you're going to need very different things. And, it's not one size fits all.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask the audience, I'm going to double check our chat here. I got to check my text too, because sometimes folks just love texting me. I don't know why. I mean, you're supposed to be here, but I have not gotten any other questions, probably because people have been so riveted. So I'm going to ask you, and again, super ultimate personal question, even more personal than working with your wife. Mm-hmm. And we'll leave it with this one. You have now made the transition of incredible professional with a very valuable expertise of local marketing. You've worked for others. You're now working for yourself and with your wife, building up a practice. So few things are more addictive and fun from a business person's perspective than owning your own practice. What would it take, if anything, because you have an incredibly valuable expertise, right, from a marketing perspective that people would pay, I pay tons for. What would it take, if anything? And this is a question for all the entrepreneurs out there, right? And as I'm asking you right here, what would it take, if anything, for you to get sucked into going back and working for somebody else, if ever?
Huh. It's a great question. So I'll answer it kind of with the two ways that I pretty much answered it to anyone I've talked to about it, which is I never really want to work for anyone else. I say that, but I say it also with my eyes wide open. I'm working harder now than I ever have. I'm more stressed in a lot of ways than I ever have. I also have the luxuries that come with being your own boss and the lifestyle that comes with that. So there's a give and take, but when you're able to build your own business, it's enterprise value for yourself. It's true equity in something that you are grounding and pounding and building. And so the feeling you get from that investment is unlike anything I've ever felt in my career. You're proud of what you've built. So barring any catastrophe in my business, I never want to work for anyone else again. That being said, the flip side is, I think there's a very decent possibility of an exit in our future here at this business. And if that were to happen, that may come with some sort of strings attached around, partnering with a larger company and doing work for an entity that's a lot larger than just Sperling. And so I think that, even in that scenario, I would have a lot of structural, kind of demands around what exactly that would mean and how it would work. But the short answer to your question is, being an entrepreneur is the most rewarding feeling. It's also the hardest job I've ever had. But if you love what you do and you feel proud of it and you truly, enjoy it, then there's no better job in the world. But it's also like, for every one guy who's successful, I know there's a whole bunch who work just as hard. They just don't catch those lucky breaks. And so I don't think I'm anything special. I think in general, I got lucky. My wife reminds me all the time how I could never have done what I did if she weren't a doctor, and she's absolutely right. But at the same time, hard work and dedication, surrounding yourself with amazing people who are all just as passionate about the work as you are, it's a really rewarding feeling. So I hope I never have to have another job again that doesn't involve building equity for myself and my family.
Ari, I would love to end it with that comment, but I have to honor the audience. And the audience has a question, which is, so we're going to go to this and then we'll do a little bit of conclusion. So which listing did you refer to that was crucial for a local provider? So I think you were talking about the map listing.
Yeah, so the map listings on Google would be the number one place. If you're a local service provider, the number one search term that people are going to search for you. Again, just use the plumber example. You're a plumber. Someone types in plumber in West Orange, plumber in New Jersey. On Google, it's going to pull up the results, but it's also going to pull up the map section. You want to get yourself listed in that map section. And I'll give a little shout out to another business I know called Yext, Yext. Check out Yext. They are probably the number one listing provider in the country. They actually went public a few years ago. I know a few people over there. For a very nominal fee, maybe a few hundred a month, maybe less, they will manage all of your local business listings and that one on Google. And getting yourself listed there is worth its weight in gold, because the amount of clicks and traffic that come through that section, if you think about it, when you're looking for a locksmith or a car repair guy, you search, you find it in that Google map, you click to call, you want to be the one they find. And so getting yourself on Google Maps, getting yourself there in an optimal manner is huge. And if you need a provider to help you with that, I would recommend you check out Yext.
Awesome. So with that, Ari, I just want to thank you. You're a busy man. We had to move this, but as you just said, you had a VIP person you had to take care of right before this. So it means a lot when anyone takes the time out to be a guest on our show. Seriously awesome. Usually I'm not at a loss for words, and you've known me for a number of years. I don't think you've ever seen me at a loss for words, but all I got to say as I leave is it's inspiring. I think this episode is going to have a lot of hope to a lot of people. You have faced, as you said, some really dark times. You've come out on top through, you say it's lucky breaks, and like, I think, it's the old saying, it's better be lucky than good. Sure, I agree, but let's not discount all the hard work you and your wife put in. Let's not discount all the hard work your staff put in. Let's not discount everyone else working around. And also, you've built up a loyal customer base. Probably have to have you on again, besides the fact 3 to 6 months. This is recorded, so everyone knows you're coming back.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And listen, any of you guys out there, private equity, investment guys, let me know. Hit me up, Ari at sperlingdermatology.com. We always want to hear from the smart guys like you. You guys are the finance people and the brains of the room. I'm just the creative marketing guy. That's it.
You say that now, but you're the one who's causing the revenue to happen. Okay, let's be clear. Right. You're the revenue producer. Everyone else is just fueling you.
All right, buddy.
All right, Ari. Thank you, audience. Thank you. This is a wrap. See you. I'd be careful. I give a see you next week because who knows when it's going to. I will see you next episode. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.